It's the Lynn and Scott Show. I'm Lynn Serrano.
I'm Scott Jones, and we've got all of our friends with us. And this is As We All See It, the show where weekly we get together with a group of people who are just incredible people from around the country, really, and even up in Canada sometimes. And we talk about, specific topics, hopefully something that strikes a chord with our listeners. And one thing I want to mention, Lynn, is that they can reach out to you or to me on our Facebook pages or whatever. And if you've got a suggestion for a topic you'd like to hear, something that you would like us to talk about, we're pretty much wide open. As long as it's not the mating rituals of the duckbill platypus, we can handle it, okay? And although I think Barry's got that one covered somewhere, I think it's in the book, chapter 4.
On his walks in the morning.
But pretty much anything to do with life or business or success or even hardships or overcoming issues, certainly let us know. And hey, if you got something fun you want us to share or something you'd like us to talk about that's a little bit fun, we're not afraid of laughing too. So please share with Lynn and I, let us know, and we will definitely put it out there, won't we, Lynn?
Absolutely. And you've done some awesome art lately, and I don't have it up here to put it, but it's just, you're so talented.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
That was very cool.
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. I just finished my homage to the Fight Club, which was a lot of fun doing that painting. So moving on from there. And there is Rex. There we go.
Okay.
Director.
Hi there. Sorry, I got to shut this phone off.
We're live.
Yeah, we're live.
I didn't expect to be live that soon. So, hi, everybody. It's great to see you all.
Don't worry, Rex. I understand. I didn't expect to still be alive. So,
Hipster got bumped out. I don't know what happened. Maybe
Okay.
he'll be back. Oh, there he is. Well,
Did you come back in?
yes, he's back.
I'm sorry, Scott. What's the reference to?
The reference to when you said,
topic.
I didn't know I'd be alive so fast. I said, well, I didn't know I would still be alive at this point. So it's kind of the same thing.
Well, I'm
glad wait a minute. Let me spell it out for you a little slower there, Rex.
I'm just glad that you are still alive.
Amen.
Oh, yeah, me too.
As we all are.
But I'm living through one of those things. If I knew I was going to live this long, I would have taken much better care of my body. You know that deal?
Yeah.
That one of the truest phrases I have ever come across, and you all know it, in my life is youth is wasted on the young.
Yes.
Very true.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes.
If we only knew then what everybody tried to tell us back then.
We
Right.
wouldn't listen.
No.
Which
we
is
would
great.
not.
Which is great about the teachable topic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's right.
But titanium is a wonderful replacement.
Oh, I'm going to know about that by the end of the year here myself.
There's a Superman comment in there somewhere.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. I remember that when I was a kid, hearing that, youth is wasted on the young, and I had no clue what they were talking about. I'm like, that's the kind of crazy shit old people say because they don't know what they're talking about.
I don't know.
Okay.
Now that I'm old, I know exactly what it means. Yeah.
But the truth be told is we all know the phrase, but we're just as guilty of not understanding it today, no matter how old you are, as it was when you first were being, pushed, hit on the head with it.
That's true. That's true.
Very true.
The old saying, we all know what to do and what we should do. We just never get around to doing it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's like George Carlin. We got the old tunes, the new tunes, but we never play it.
And we've got the cartoons.
Yeah, the cartoons. Yeah. So, Scott, about our topic here.
Yeah, let's jump in because I have a feeling that this is something that we could speak a lot on, especially with the learned panel that we have here. Is remaining. What's that?
I'm sorry, I'm talking to myself out loud. I said, are we still missing John? Wasn't John here?
Oh, he can't make it this week.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Wait, Sandy though.
We have Sandy.
We have Sandy. And in John's honor, when we get off the show, everybody's got to call 6 people.
That's right.
In John's honor.
How about we all call John 6 times?
Yeah,
That's
I'll
even
get
better.
you his phone
A
number.
better idea.
I'll
That's
give you
like
his phone
36
number,
calls from all of it. That's great.
There you go. So, hey, we got our job done. Our homework was done.
I brought up remaining teachable because that is something that I always had that concept that as I got older, I would know more and I would have to like work less to know things or stop. Hey, I don't have to learn anymore. I've got this all. And what I found is that kind of almost every day there's a new lesson in front of me. There's always something that I can learn, and during the worst parts of my life, not even talking about the addiction, but even after the addiction, when I was struggling through other things, those were the times when I shut myself off from being teachable. Those are the times when I said, I got this all on my own. I'm not listening to anybody. I'm not letting new ideas in. And it was almost that arrogant of a face that I put on when I went out. It's like, everybody else is stupid. I got this all figured out. If the world would just figure out what I know, everybody would be fine. And that was it. But I was miserable during those times. But when I open myself up and I start to, the biggest thing I've learned is I've learned what I don't know. And that opens me up for a world of possibilities. And remaining teachable is not a chore. Remaining teachable is the gift that we're given. Because I get to get new things. I get to meet new people. I get to get new ideas. I have beliefs politically and spiritually and community beliefs and beliefs in recovery and other things. But those beliefs remain flexible enough for me to hear new ideas and constantly improve. Case in point, I wrote the class that I'm actually teaching tomorrow. I wrote the class initially 5 years ago. And it has changed 7 or 8 times in that 5 years, like little changes, big changes, just little things that I said, that's better because I learned it from the people I was teaching. So remaining teachable, I want to look at it not from a point of, you always got to sit there like you're in a classroom and keep your mind open. It's really more of that's the gift we've been given to continue to learn, because I can't imagine reaching that point where I've got nothing to discover anymore. I can't imagine how bad that would feel. And I must have bored Rex. No, I'm kidding.
He already knows this part.
Yeah,
You don't want to be taught again.
And again, I spent some time with some people yesterday. Were completely unflappable about their political ideologies, and they were just so staunch on it. I'm like, have you considered that? No, this is the right thing. This is the only thing. And I'm like, it is such a narrow place to exist. I mean, like I said, I have my beliefs, but I keep them flexible enough that there's always room for improvement. It is a gift that we have. And I'd love us all to talk about that, because I can't imagine, especially, you guys, even Sandy, I remember from before when we spoke, you guys are all so open and willing to listen to other things because we know it's about our own improvements. So take it away, people.
So
and thank you for being here.
I think I want to send it to Sandy first.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
So today I had an instance of a teachable moment, and I'm trying to figure out and process still, was it a teachable moment for me or for them? Right. So I came at it and I thought it was something somebody knew and they didn't know. You don't know what you don't know, right? And I just perceived that they knew something, that they didn't know how the procedure worked. And I just assumed they did. So I guess I got a curt tone with them and they got very offended with me. So, and then on my defense, right, I got even more defensive, And so after it all transpired, they were mad, I was curt, they were upset, and I ended the phone conversation abruptly. And I sat back and I went, shame on them for blah, 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 blah. And, it really took me a minute. Am I being teachable in that moment? I'm usually very flexible and very open, like you're saying, but I wasn't, because I just assumed that they knew this procedure, but they didn't. So there is the miscommunication and the misperception, and it became a teachable moment for me in that way, that I had to pick up the phone and call them back and say, I apologize if I sounded bitchy. If I sounded bitchy about this, I just assumed you knew the protocol and the procedure. And they still, had the defense, and, it went through this whole thing. So I think it became a teachable moment for them, that I wasn't trying to be that way. I was just being like, why don't you know this kind of thing, And so Yeah, I stepped right in it, I stepped right in it, and I'm usually so like, oh, hi. And that was what they saw. They were like, wow, she's not being friendly, she's not being nice like I usually am. I just wanted them to do the thing correctly. So it became a teachable moment. It's so funny, this happened like today. And so I'm still processing it. Was it a teachable moment for me or for them? And it doesn't matter. So this is where I come to. It doesn't matter. I let my pride take over for a minute. They let their pride take over for a minute. And so then neither one of us were teachable. We both were like sticking to our guns. He did that wrong and I did that right. And that's where the standoff comes, right? That's when you're not teachable. When your pride and your ego go,
Yeah.
and so I had to take a step back and go, okay, I'm sorry. I apologize. And I still was a little mad because he wasn't accepting my apology even. So, I was just like, well,
Might be another teachable moment.
This is the reason why I love the show, is because people forget everything you hear from somebody. It's as we all see it and what view we see it. We can't always assume anything that another person knows or doesn't know.
Right. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah,
and you don't know what you don't know. And so now I realize he didn't know that was the procedure. And I came at him as somebody going, hey, stay in the lines. And so
Sandy, doesn't it feel like a missed opportunity or a missed moment? Like there's a hole in that moment because of those kind of things.
Yeah,
it's
I feel bad.
It's not just that, maybe I didn't learn something or they didn't get it or something, but I almost walk away like when I have those situations, like that really felt very hollow because it wasn't, there was nothing exchanging there. It just, we hit this impasse and nothing was happening. And it's such a sad moment.
Right. And I feel bad now because I know his perception has changed of me. Right. So now I know he now is not going to communicate with me like he used to because he doesn't trust me now. He doesn't trust my, how I'm going to, treat him, respect him, in an exchange of a conversation. So that's sad. It's sad. I feel bad.
You get to rebuild trust with him slowly if you want to.
Yeah.
If you require, the thing about it is you got to have effort and willingness to say, you know what, I realized what I did. I realized what happened. Can we do something to resolve it? Make the invitation. That's the best way you can approach it because now, especially because you now have a pretty good idea of what he's thinking, you can actually come in a different way. So it's a great thing to do. Am I up now?
Yes, you are.
Well, you just pulled out the emotional duct tape to fix everything. You may as well talk. Yes.
Oh, damn. I'll say one thing. Two of the most dangerous
words. Relaxed, Scott.
Two of the most dangerous words you can say is "I know," because I have definitely crossed that line too many times in my life. But what I've also become very aware over the years is just how much I don't know, and it's kind of what you said, Sandy, about you don't know what you don't know. I'm getting much clearer about what I do know. What I don't know is that next level up, which is the thing about humility. Because one of the things you said about being like we know everything. I think it's an ego-driven piece, of course, because when we're kids, we don't want to be the one that doesn't know. We want to know more so we can feel like we fit in the crowd or we are superior or we meet our peers. And I think it keeps going until our adulthood that we don't think it's okay to say, I don't know the answer. We oftentimes we make stuff up, as one of my friends said, MSU is the big school, is making shit up.
I love it.
Well, because the graduate school I went to was USM, so what was MSU?
MSU is Montana State University.
I know.
No.
Yeah, graduate from making shit up. Yeah. The thing is that for me, and I think I said the show before about the journey, because oftentimes we think that we've learned something, and then we experience the pain of not knowing it again. I talk about this in relationship work where we go in the circle, like we go around again and again. Yeah. And when sometimes they hit the same issue again, and people get so disheartened because they go, oh, not this again. But the recognition I have in the learners and I've learned, what I teach my clients as well, is that what's happening is you're not learning it again. You're learning at different levels. You're not going in circles. You're going in a spiral where actually you're becoming in at a higher level of awareness. You don't know everything, no. But you have a sense of, oh, I know this again, but maybe I can do it a little bit better this time. And then come around again and go a little bit better this time. So the joy of this work, in quotes for some people, is all get to learn something new.
Or redo.
Well, the thing is, and also, by the way, and I've been in the personal development field for almost 40 years now. let's just say I've crossed a few teachers who don't know as much as they think they do. And the challenge for me, I definitely have watched where I invest my money with teachers and classes and trainings, is when I check out the person's work and I can feel where they've hit their limit, they're not going above it. They're not someone I want to study with. I want to be somebody who knows more than I do. That's the reason I want to learn. And there are plenty of people who do know more than I do in some areas. So I'm in a program now with a coach who is a master in something I don't know about, which I love. And the fact that she brings such a gift of education and caring to all of us in the group, that's where I thrive. So for me, being a student is one of my favorite places to be.
Wow. When you mentioned, Barry, that learning in the relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and have you noticed that, you know, a lot of times when couples become very argumentative all the time, that you ask one of them, you know, what's going on? What they say, same shit. It's the same shit. You know why? Because they keep doing the same thing over without learning from it. And it doesn't just stay at the same level. It then escalates each time because it gets more and more frustrating because neither one of them are moving and learning.
Well, the problem is
right?
they're playing the same tapes again and again.
Yeah.
And rather than going, hang on a second, we've done this so many times. What if I ask a different question? Or what if I don't respond the same as I did last time? That's the gift of learning something new. It's like, oh, I put my foot in it last time. Let me do something different this time. It doesn't do quite as much damage. And maybe you can change the relationship. Not guaranteed, but it's a better chance. And if both people don't do it, if one of you says, hang on, done this before, let me try something different, there's a possibility of change.
That movie Groundhog comes to mind, but whatever.
Groundhog Day.
Oh, yeah. Remember that movie?
Yeah, it's fun for like the first 3 days. After that, you're just trying to kill yourself the whole time.
Yeah.
No, but then you can be good at certain things, you know. You start to watch out, you know it's going to be repeated.
It's a great movie.
Excellent. Who's
So
thrown in
this
next?
is an interesting topic because I was talking about this earlier today. I told somebody I've remained teachable because I'm married 28 years. He said, "What's the key?" One sentence. Yes, dear. Absolutely amazing. That's right.
That it's muscle memory.
And then, you know, to Barry's point, you know, you go to MSU, make shit up, but you get your master's at SWC, selling with conviction. So,
acronyms everywhere today.
That's exactly. Well, it's interesting because Lynn and I actually happened to be on a friend's podcast today.
Tom.
We were on the same podcast, and I know the hosts of the show very well, but then I happen to know the guest as well. I work with him on one of the projects I'm involved in, and so it was great to hear him in a different environment. I learned tremendous number of things about him today. In fact, his 5-stage matrix for building a business: survival, stability, growth, innovation, graduation. I've never ever heard that before, and it was just like, wow, I just really love the way he put that together. So, I mean, the reality is, if you're green, you're growing. If you're ripe, you're rotting. And, you know, you've just got to continue to go forward. There's always something available to you to learn a little different this, a little different that. It's actually, if I'm on a stage presentation, one of my standard questions to the audience, by a show of hands, how many of you don't know what you don't know? Is it fair to say that somebody might know what you don't know? Is it even possible I might know what you don't know? So I only ask one thing: suspend disbelief for the next hour, and we'll figure it out together. And that's the reality of, you know, understanding. It would be pretty arrogant to say, you know, I learned everything in high school, and so I'm not going to learn it. Well, no, I actually learned everything in college. No, I learned it in my first corporate career. No, I learned it when I became an independent and was out on my own. It's like, hell no. There's always something else. I mean, look at this. Lynn gave us a teachable moment and said, hey, you can stream our show tonight to your Facebook page. I didn't know that 12 minutes ago. Right? So the reality is, if you want to keep on growing and being more, what you were saying, Scott, about positions. It's really one of the biggest issues I think we have in our country right now is being diametrically opposed.
Mhm.
We're not in this space where anybody's willing to give or listen. You know, is it possible that this could be a good thing? No, it's not even possible. Don't even bother saying it. Well, how do you modify anything, good, bad, or indifferent at that point?
Right.
Absolutely. You know, Scott, it's funny when you're talking about business too. It's not good enough that you were teachable 30 years ago.
No,
Because what you learned 30 years ago was to make sure that you always had ink in your fax machine and make sure you had a pager and always
you
carry
had
change for the
film in your
payphones.
fax machine.
What's that?
You had film in your
Film in your
machine.
fact. That's right. That's right. Rex, you might not remember. You were only about 30 years ago, so we get it. But it's not just learn what you learn today will change tomorrow. It's not. It might change tomorrow. It will change tomorrow because first of all, you're going to be standing in a different place under a different part of the sun, and you're going to have a different feeling that moment, and the world's going to change. And and today, I mean, geez, when I was a kid, I dreamed about having a phone in my shoe like Maxwell Smart, and now they got Dick Tracy phones in people's watches.
Yeah.
It's just freaking insane.
Let me add
I just can't imagine standing still and not learning would be like being back in the caveman days and just not being able to do anything. You follow where I'm going, Scott?
Oh, absolutely. I wanted to just add one more thing. We were doing actually an infomercial a number of years ago, and at that time, and this is
wait, Scott knows about infomercials.
8 years ago.
Don't
She's going to do it.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
No, my hands are here.
But one of the facts that we were sharing is that like 42% of what a college student learned in their first year and a half in school was obsolete at the year and a half.
Man.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so. In other words, that in essence, everything they learned in their first year of college was obsolete by the third year of college. And that's how fast things are moving. Now, that was a number of years ago. I got to believe it's moving even faster than that. So if you don't remain teachable, you are in deep shit. That's a very technical term.
There's another component to that, and that 80% of everything you learned in college is forgotten within 6 months of graduation.
Yeah.
No, I still remember where to buy beer.
Well, that's part of the 20% you do recall.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
It makes you scary for your doctors.
I remember where I bought beer in college. I can't remember where I left my damn car.
So Barry said that the two most dangerous words in the English language translated into any language is I know, and that's true, and probably the two most important words in the English language and any other language, and the two most inviting words are know thyself. And we make a huge mistake if we only think that what we don't know is information that's out there that belongs to somebody else or that's in the atmosphere somehow, because it's not just about facts and figures and info and what you can do and skills and talent base. It's actually coming to know yourself and understanding many, many things. Now, when you were born and I was born, we didn't pop out of the womb and run across the room, go grab something and do all this stuff. I mean, think about looking at a little baby just, try to feed itself at first. It's like this, I mean, there's all this kind of stuff. We didn't pop out of the womb having walked or the ability to run. Everything is a process. It's an unfolding. And in order to be able to get to whatever you want to reach, you have to undo all of this shaky stuff.
Yeah.
But that's the body, that's the brain learning parameters to target at what it is so that you can, with intention, get something. Same thing with walking and same thing with sitting up. We wobble all over the place and fall down. So most of learning is unlearning things or learning by testing the parameters and then honing it so that we can focus on what it is that's important. And what most people miss, and I have, by the way, I write about this all the time. My blog, Gratitude Activator, I wrote about it yesterday. This very same topic. I wrote about it today. It was called What You Can Learn from Rom-Com Movies, essentially, or romance movies, but it's about learning. And it's a Gratitude Activator. But I've talked about this for 40 years, more than 40 years, probably more than anything else, is the ability to learn and to be teachable and to stay open. Because just as you can't walk until you walk and go through the process, you can't remain open until you open up. You know, you can try things, you can write things, you can do all the exercises, you can go to all the workshops, you can read all the books, but until that moment happens when you wake up, you aren't awake. So if you say, and here's the thing, people don't realize, not only do they not know what they don't know, but they think that they're teachable when they're not. They think they're open when they're closed. So they go, oh, I got that. And the minute they say, I got that, they're closed.
Mm-hmm.
Not that they can't understand it, but the minute you say, oh, do you know that when I write a blog or when you write anything, or Scott gave us 5 steps from some business model, for all the things that are in that business model, there's all the things that aren't in that business model. You can't be all inclusive. It can't be exhausted. You know, you can't exhaust it. So you take these 5 steps, but then there's all this other stuff that may not be addressed by that person or this person or that thing or that. So what is our responsibility? Nobody can teach anybody anything. That's also a fallacy. I can present stuff and I can show stuff and I can take your hand and walk you through stuff. But unless you're willing to apply it, do it, practice it, absorb it, you're not going to learn it. And so it isn't about me teaching you or a teacher teaching us. It's about us being teachable, meaning receptive to what's being presented to us so that we can acquire it. As a baby, your natural inclination was to model that stuff around you.
Yep.
Once you learned language and went to school, you forgot about all that stuff. You were taught out of it. You were trained that we're going to teach you. You're going to regurgitate this stuff, and information is important, and it doesn't transform you at all. So you got check marks, and you learn to feel bad about learning. You learn to feel bad about yourself and to feel unworthy and unwanted. I developed something called the Mastery Loop 3-4 decades ago, which is about the process of learning and acquiring skills. And there's, I will say this, 2 things. I say it here all the time or frequently. The story of the Zen master pouring tea into the cup, and the cup overflows, and the student says, hey, it's full, it's full. And he goes, yes, it's full. Go empty your cup and come back when you're ready. I've mentioned that I was around, by the time I was 18, I was around a mystic, a guru, in Hollywood, who terrified me. And he would have me do things and say things and be things. And, whenever I was with him, I was just scared that all he wanted was sex, which he didn't. But I thought he did because I couldn't figure out why he was so invested in me, other than that might be what he wanted. And, and he would say, oh, you're the product of your parents' conditioning. And I go, yeah, whatever. I couldn't hear a word he said until I heard the word he said. But that was years later. When I look back on the experience, I went, whoa, where was I then? And I thought I was cool. I mean, I thought I had it together. And I was projecting all sorts of stuff on this guy, and suspicious and skeptical and cynical and all these kinds of things, thinking I've got it together. And this guy's just trying to somehow manipulate me into thinking different ways or being different ways or doing. So, one, who you pay attention to is truly important. Your interest should be in their heart. They may sometimes have tough love or easy love, but your interest should be in their heart. A lot of these gurus out there today don't know squat. Number one, they just perpetuate the conditioning that the society perpetuates, and they make it attractive, and they're popular, and they're shiny, and all that kind of. So they spread lies or myths inadvertently and unintentionally, or they do it because they just don't frickin' know, which is a huge part of that too, and they think they do, and you can see it in their advertising. I'm gonna advertise this way or that way, and they try and terrify you. Your life might depend on this. While it could, it probably doesn't. And so there's all sorts of stuff that is thrown at us, and we think, well, I'll go there, I'll go here, I'll do that. We don't realize that it isn't what we acquire. Self-help, self-improvement, personal development is all a misnomer. It's what you let go of that stuff stands in your way from being your true self, from knowing your authentic self. You can't add it from the outside. You can only reveal it from within to without. And that means know thyself. That means be able to be open, be able to be receptive. Be skeptical, that's fine, but be skeptical and open, not cynical and closed. And understand that no one's going to give you the skills that you need to do anything in life. You have to unlock them.
That's right.
and pull them from the sources around you. People are sitting there, well, will I be this when this program is done? Hell no.
No.
Right.
The answer is not if you don't do anything. I mean,
do the work.
Right.
Do the work. Right.
But the sad part is people say, I'm cool. I'm a learner. I'm a lifelong learner. I do these things, and I'm doing this course and that course and this course and that course, and all they're doing is keeping their cup full.
Yeah.
Busy.
Now, Rex, isn't there a danger of the snake oil mentality of the, the panacea? This person has all my answers. This pill cures everything I ever had. Doing this is the only way to do anything. And people fall into that. And even though they're looking for answers, the scope is so small. I mean, what can you learn? But people take advantage of that. You were just talking about, there's a lot of people out there that are out in the name of helping people who don't know shit, but they know how to sell the snake oil. They know how to sell the panacea. Follow me. You'll be successful in business. You're going to get all the women you want. You're going to be a dynamo in bed. And that's after the first session. Second session, we double the price, but then I'm going to give you this. And people follow it. Why do they do that, Rex?
Well, I mean,
why?
I just want to say that's a new recipe with the same ingredients.
Well, we're lemmings.
Yeah.
We follow the people around us. We're sheep. We're lemmings. We think, and we've been conditioned to pay attention to people in the front of the room, people on television, people who are celebrities, people who have things. Look at the marketing of most programs right now. It's have a boat, have a car, have a house, have power, crush your competition, get this, get that, get this, get that, make this kind of money in a shorter period of time, blah, 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 blah. It's almost all the same, and it makes sense within a field. You're going to only be able to offer so many ways. Right. And it's hard to differentiate yourself, or it could be difficult to. Hi, Randy. It could be difficult to. Randy Chaffee's a really good guy.
Yeah. Hey, Randy.
And don't mean. Oh, and Sandra Horton. So I'm sorry, Nicole and everybody, and Teresa. Geez, I'm the welcome wagon.
Yeah, because you shared it on your page. I'm so excited.
Something shiny just went by. We lost Rex for a moment. Before we go any further with that thought, though, Rex, I want to differentiate something. Following like lemmings and following blindly is not the same as being teachable. Those aren't the same
as what?
Right? It's being teachable or remaining teachable.
No.
Just following somebody, because you said we follow people like lemmings, and they're like, well, isn't that being teachable? No, it's not.
No, it's not. That is the point. We think because of our conditioning, what we should adhere to, who we should follow, what we should do, and if this person has this kind of cash value, and I mean cachet value, not just money value,
right.
But they have a certain thing, then we should follow them. And I did a series on Napoleon Hill's views of leadership on YouTube a number of years ago. It's a 3-part series, and part of that is, and I never call myself a leader, okay? Because I don't think leaders call themselves leaders. I think everybody who wants to be a leader calls himself a leader, and everybody who is a leader just, I'm a tour guide. I go look at that, look at this, here, come here, check this out, and if they want to follow, they follow. I'm not into trying to acquire masses of people to follow me. That's not what leadership is about. It's helping to create people who also can surpass me, surpass us, and move the needle forward for the world. And so what gets caught up is that people, it's the cult of celebrity. It's the cult of whether that's a celebrity book, a movie, a celebrity TV, a celebrity infomercial, a celebrity letter. And so, and by celebrity
infomercial?
Stop. No, not infomercials. That's not the same thing.
Okay.
Those are
back
evil.
when I refused to do an infomercial many years ago in around 2000 because I didn't want to do it. I just was like, that's not who I am.
Good for you, because that shit haunts you. Trust me.
Well,
especially if you know Lynn.
Here's the thing. we know that there's 4 stages of learning: unconscious incompetence, which says I don't know that I don't know, and then there's conscious incompetence, meaning I know that I don't know. So imagine a time when you didn't know you could ride a bike, and that was a certain period of years, and you didn't know bikes existed, you didn't know you could do it, you didn't ever see it, so you were unconsciously incompetent. You didn't know what you didn't know, just outside of your awareness. And then one day maybe you saw someone riding a bike, and you didn't, at some point, maybe not that first time, but you went, wow, I don't know how to do that, or I don't even know what that is, or whatever. And you became aware of something that you weren't able to do, or didn't have, or didn't know. Okay, and then we talk about conscious competence, which is really the space that if you then get on a bike and you then do the pedaling and the balancing and all that stuff that you put together, whether you have training wheels or not, you're talking yourself through this thing. You're acquiring the skills. This is probably the longest phase, although you can be unconsciously aware of something forever. But this is probably the longest phase because it's kind of like you have a foot on the dock and a foot on the boat, and you're going back and forth while you're trying to incorporate the skill, which eventually, if you stick with it long enough, through habit, through dedication, you end up with unconscious competence, which means it becomes a reliable automatic skill that you then can use whenever you need to or want to. And yet it's a process from not knowing to knowing, but even at the point of unconscious competence, it would be the height of all hubris to say, I've got it all down, I know everything, because even the maestros in music and the artists of this world and the people who are good at whatever they do, in their 90s and 100s keep saying, well, one day I might get this right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, Two Hips got it right. Yes,
It
dear.
reminds me of when I was learning dancing. You're exactly what you were saying when I was learning Irish dancing. The biggest lessons I learned about being teachable was learning dancing, because I stood in the corner because I didn't know anything, and all the good girls stood over there and I was in the corner, right? And it really took me to be humble and go, I don't know this, though they had a lot more experience dancing than I did in Irish dancing. And so I stood in the corner until I gained that confidence of making my way down. There's a hierarchy in it. Like, we unconsciously do that. Like, I don't know this, but these girls over here think they might know this. So there's a hierarchy, even in a dance class, of how we line ourselves up. It's so fascinating, psychology, in psychology, on how we all act. Well, I was with this two girls, us three, we didn't know anything. But as I gained confidence, I stepped down and I stepped down. And I finally wanted to be behind the teacher because I wanted to know it. And the girls that thought that they knew it, they weren't paying attention to the teacher anymore. Does that make sense? So it was interesting how that all developed, and I became a teacher of it eventually because I humbled myself into going, I want to teach others how to do this instead of I know how to do this, perfectly.
You see, and somebody could have followed you instead of the teacher, or you could have followed those kids and learned bad habits and not learned them from the teacher.
That's right. And then so as he was talking, Rex, as you were talking, I was visualizing that whole experience as you were talking about that. I was like me walking one step down until I got to be the teacher. And it was really cool how that evolved. And it really helped me to gain my confidence, my self-esteem, all of those things, and still knowing that I didn't know everything about it and that I wasn't perfect at doing it. Like knowing, hey, I'm not the best dancer in this class, but I am the best one focusing on trying to learn it. Like that was the difference.
That's awesome.
I'd
like to piggyback off of what you were saying there, Rex, and that is the 4 stages of competence is exactly that, for a particular thing. So you get so unconscious competent that you know that particular thing so well. All that unconscious competent means is you don't have to think about putting that into action.
Right.
It just happens because you've done it so many times. It's so rehearsed. It's so practiced.
Right.
Whatever. But it does not mean in the least that you know everything at that level.
Yeah.
When you're in a river dance lineup and you make a mistake on one step, everybody notices, whether you know that step 100,000 times or not, because it's true. We would get up there and your nerves get it, it's muscle memory, but you can mess it up.
Well, you're in a constant stage of the 4 levels of competence with differing things. While you may understand your task, however the job that you do. If you're a speaker, you may know a speech, but it doesn't mean you know how to run the back of the room, or you know how to take all the other things to it.
Well, this is an important point, because we're never done until we're
Right.
dead, and then when we're dead, we're not done because we're transitioning into worm food or whatever.
That's right.
But the point is that people think that they're complete at some point, and
Yeah.
Well, I hit the top of that level, and then guess what? I'm taking it again now, even though I knew it and I was a teacher. I'm taking it again because I want to refresh it and be, because it gives me joy in my heart. Like I want to refresh it and be okay with how it ends.
In all of those things you want. Go ahead, Barry.
Go ahead, Barry. Go ahead, Barry.
We'll jump in again. It's an exciting conversation.
Yeah. This is good.
One thing a couple of things I want to say. Something that Rex said earlier about when we're born, when it come in, like when I come out of the womb, go running across the room, we know everything. I have said a lot of times in my teaching that when we're born, we don't come with a user manual. We don't have a how-to guide, how to live life. So basically, we are playing it by ear. We are learning as we go. So none of us come in already aware. Well, at least I don't think so. Once or twice so in history, apparently people have, but we don't. So we know that we are students. It's almost required.
Benjamin Button. No, just kidding.
No, I was thinking of somebody else anyway. But the thing I want to add to that, though, I said I've been doing seminars and workshops for years. One seminar I did, I loved it so much, I went back and took it once a year for 10 years as a renewal, as a reminder, because it was each time I took it, I got a different experience. And the thing is, that's true of life in general. So it doesn't matter how many times you've done something. Like I've had this conversation with people about learning to drive in America versus learning to drive in England. Because most people in America didn't drive stick shift when they learned how to drive. They drove automatics.
I did.
Not many people. Well,
Us
maybe
girl
West Coast.
powers.
But in England, it was a different license.
Yeah.
So you drove an automatic, you had a lower level license than if you drove a stick shift. So I learned to drive a stick shift because I wanted to be able to do both. But the thing is, that's the thing about learning. You may think you know how to drive a car if you learn to drive an automatic, and suddenly you got this stick shift and it's like, how do I drive this? So be open to possibility and learning no matter what it is. The other thing I want to say, and this is kind of slightly different from what Rex said about worm food. I've been a student of spirituality for a long time, and my belief system is that we are here for a fixed period of time, yes, but we're not based upon that. We're here before and we'll be here afterwards type thing. So from my understanding is we're not here by accident.
Right.
We are in fact here to learn things that we cannot learn any other way. So being a human being or being in human form is a choice we make before we come in to learn something. There's a book actually that Neil Donald Walsh, who wrote the Conversation with Good book series, he's got a book called The Little Soul in the Sun. It's a kid's book, but every adult should read it. It's the idea basically that the soul, before it comes into human form, decides what it wants to work on when it comes in. And it picks soul friends to do the lesson with. And some of the lessons are pretty harsh. But the thing is, when we come in here, we come in as a spiritual being expecting to learn something. So to think that you know everything is a really, really big assumption. So my thing is, all the time.
I don't want to cut you off.
No, go. I'm done.
Well, I was just going to say, on top of that, if it's true, and I'm not, there's no reason to say it isn't, or if it is, but if it's true that we come in for that purpose, then shut the fuck up.
Exactly. Yes.
Stop complaining about everything. This is what you chose. You got here for a reason. You came to
Thank you.
And you're challenged by him. Okay, so what? I mean, this is the problem with people, It's just,
He said that at 44 minutes and 11 seconds, if anybody wants to go back.
I'm going to get that down in my notes.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, Rex Sykes, his new book is coming out this summer. Shut the fuck up.
Shut the fuck up. No, I mean, this is you're so on target. I mean, we're going to transition. Energy can't be created or destroyed. It can only be, transformed. So whatever, wherever, whatever, however, and there are different viewpoints, but guess what? Almost all the way around the world for the dawn of humankind on, this idea is found in places all around the world, that had no connection together or whatever. They somehow spontaneously rise. So I go, yeah, of course, it makes perfect sense. But the thing that's so strange is that we so we come in and we are a product of our conditioning. That is the process of coming in. We come into a world that nowadays, at least, that already exists, and so we're shaped by the environment and the people around us, and that's just part of it. And we're shaped by our media and the politics, our religion, and our experiences. So, the whining part of it, the excusing part of it, thinking I know everything. I mean, imagine, I can be there. I've been in acting classes and school classes and in self-development classes going, this teacher knows nothing. Well, what kind of attitude is that? I've had that attitude. I mean, myself, and I know plenty of people do. I'm going, this person's full of crap. They don't know well, I mean, think about it. I mean, we blame our leaders, which maybe we should, but the point is, we tend to take this position that we know more than other people who've done things far more times than we have or have had greater experience than us, and then act as if we're, either open. There's two things that happen. People are either I know everything or I know nothing, but they don't genuinely. Not both of those are like egotistical claims. They're not openness or whatever.
Right.
They're not enlightened. They're I'm so undeserving, or I'm really worth everything, and you don't know how cool I am, kind of stuff. Or you don't know how much I've suffered here in the dark and the cold. And it's just really coming home to saying, we're having a human experience, and that experience is again, it's a gift, it's a blessing. And the more you can be open to what happens, the more you can celebrate and be grateful, the more that you can release and let go. And if you want to learn information, that's all fine. If you want to have experiences, how about just go read books on sex and never have it? Just know everything about it. Yeah, you've been there, I know. But
you didn't say raise your hand, Scott.
Oh,
I didn't say this isn't personal confession.
Isn't it amazing? Right after that, he takes a drag on the old vapor.
Yeah. I got just feeling some
Which,
shame
by the way,
here.
Scott Schilling's was you last week.
We're getting. Oh yeah, I know. I appreciate that. I was actually in Tampa, but I want to, because we got about 13 minutes, 12 minutes left. I want to kind of spin this around a little bit to the other side of it, because we kind of analyzed a lot of the, some negative parts and some parts about the struggle. But let's talk about the rewards of being teachable and how it feels. One of the things, Rex, while he was just making his point, I was thinking about sometimes it's not always about just simple knowledge. It's not always about 2 + 2 = 4 and learning that. Sometimes it's just about adopting perception so that I'm seeing something in a new way. It's the same information. It's like when you buy a gift for a child on Christmas, I put the gift down, I wrap it, and I put it under the tree. Now, my perception is I just spent $30 on a piece of shit that's going to be broken in about 2 weeks. But now, if that's the only perception I'm going to have of that moment, now there's no fact that has changed. That's still $30. It's still a piece of crap built in China, whatever it is. But when the child gets that in their hands, they start ripping into it. If I could adopt their perception for a moment, which is the joy of Christmas morning, and feel their joy and everything else, and they're not thinking about a $30 piece of crap. They got a present, and it's a toy, and it's great. And sometimes our teachable moments aren't about the knowledge, but just simply about saying, there's another side to this. Same information, same thing I've looked at my whole life. Maybe I need to look at it differently. So, and when you do that, the joy is there. We've got proof of it Christmas morning, people. When you watch your kids open gifts, when you watch somebody get something or be surprised, when you go to the movies and there's a surprise ending. I went to the movie Titanic. I'm standing in line. Somebody told me the ship sank at the end. I didn't even go in. I didn't bother with it. I want to be surprised. I want to be surprised by stuff. And it's the joy of that, So let's talk about the joy of being teachable as we kind of wrap up the night. Okay.
It's
whoever wants to jump in first.
It's one of the great losses, I think, in people's positions these days is they've lost the art of curiosity. And therefore because they've lost curiosity, they've ultimately lost childlike wonder.
Yes.
And
Yes.
if you stay in this place of childlike wonder, that everything is experiential learning, everything is that possibility. You know, again, we've been put on the planet to expand our experiences. I mean, that's the knowledge base, right? So if you stay, but everything, so many things are so absolute that we've lost the curiosity of it all. Or, you know, the punchline, somebody's got to get the punchline because they think you'll think, gosh, isn't he smart? He knew the punchline. No, you jerk, you ruined the joke, right? You know, even if you know, don't give away the ending or don't give away the punchline, right? If you have that curiosity, if you're always in that childlike wonder, it's actually amazing, because now if you stop and look at it, you know, with some of the stuff Rex was saying earlier, is like, oh wow, you know, I teach the four stages of, you know, consciousness, or however you want to. It's in my book. That being said, so did Zig Ziglar, so does Rex Sykes, so does everybody, and we all have a little different take on it per se, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's the Zig, one of the best thing he ever said. You know, so Les Brown said to him, Zig, you share the exact same talk every city we go. I don't get it. I change mine. I try to be fresh. You do the same damn thing every week. And he says, two reasons. Number one, the people in this city haven't heard this talk and they need to. But I teach truth, and truth never changes. So the four stages of competency, that doesn't change. How we apply it, how we look at it, how we expand on it, the curiosity behind it, that childlike wonder, it's amazing how it makes a difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, Barry? Yeah.
I'll take it this way for a second. I've shared before about the conversation where I was on stage talking about difference between polyamory and monogamy. And I said, you can go wide, you can go deep, as the answer to somebody's question about it. In this is a sexuality conversation. And what came underneath that is that when you're with one person and you really do commit to a long-term relationship with them, you don't learn everything about them in the first 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. It's a lifelong journey. Well, that's the same as looking in the mirror. We look in the mirror and think we know ourselves. That's a mistake as well. We don't know all our gifts, our talents, our skills yet. So if we're not learning more about how we function in the world, what we can do, because a lot of us spend time going, well, I can't do that, I can't do that, I can't do that. That cuts off the opportunity. So it's often a good advice, recommendation, because I'm taking it in as myself as I'm saying this, continue to be a student of our own possibility, our own opportunities, our own learnings, because that's really going to be what changes our lives, frankly.
Okay, so
Perfect.
as
Love
Rex
that.
was talking about earlier, I feel like we're an evolution of changes all the time. Like we are always going to the next level, and we have to do a little bit of, you know, damage control or introspection, right? To when we get to the next one, you know, and be teachable there, and kind of like analyze where we're at, and then try to learn, you know, in this phase, you know, what we didn't learn in the last one. But I also wanted what Rex was saying about going to that acting class. I was thinking about that. I've sat in lots of seminars in my industry in fire, and I know a lot of the different things. And you go into a class, and sometimes a person will say one sentence where that whole day of 8 hours sitting there changes your life. So you have to persevere through it. You have to continue, because you don't know what they're really going to say and how it's going to impact you, and how that revelation will come at you. Because I've had that happen many times where I sat there and went, oh, you know, that one sentence. So you, as long as you're open and teachable, you know, you can receive that revelation. But if you close your mind off and you're, you know, chewing on your snacks and looking at your phone, you're not going to receive it. Right. So, you know, you have to put a little bit of focus and you have to invest in it also. You have to be a participant in it. You have to say, okay, I'm learning. What am I going to get out of this? And just wait for it. Sometimes it doesn't come right away, but that one sentence can change your life in Revelation. So that's my share.
Absolutely. I think sometimes the mistake we make is we want to figure out what the sentence is before we hear it. And sometimes we're so busy thinking about what do I want to get out of this, we actually miss what we can get out of it. So sometimes we just got to stay open and just let it go. But I absolutely agree with you. Lives change by one sentence or one word. I hate to miss it. Rex.
Before Rex, I just want to notice our little Miss Flo's not up here, but we love you. We love you, Flo. Don't think we didn't notice you were there. We love and appreciate you. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Remain
Rex.
teachable. Go with the flow, people.
That's right.
I would argue that instead of remain teachable, it's becoming teachable. Become teachable.
Become teachable. Oh, nice.
Because that's what we need to do. It's an active process that we need to remember, not to assume that, hey, we got it, we're teachable and now it's just remaining it. Imagine being in a closet for a long, long time. And that's all you know. And then one day the door opens and you can go out and everything is new and it's there and the whole world is now opened up to you because you're no longer in the closet. Well, at one time you were in a womb for a while and then you came out and you were birthed, and the entire world is your oyster. Everything is there. But if you get over the limiting beliefs that you have that we've acquired through our conditioning, over the assumptions that we carry, over the analysis by paralysis kind of mental stuff we do that we try and fact and figure everything out, and if we stop doing the whole prove me, prove it to me, demonstrate to me, if we stop being cynical and closed and start being, if you need to be skeptical, but open, there's a saying I think is also a truism and really important, and I'll at least say a portion of it, and that is be still and know. Because the quieter we get, and I don't just mean not talking, but the stillness that comes from being inside, where you're still, your mind is still, your presence is still, then you can experience what's around you.
Yep.
Most people are walking around with a dialogue in their head that keeps them from noticing what's actually there because they're too busy watching the tapes, the movies, the sounds, the feelings that they've lived, all their life that they think make them up. And they don't know. I can promise you, you don't know what's on the other side of that until you're on the other side of that.
Right.
So what are the rewards of becoming teachable? Everything.
Yeah.
That's right.
I love that.
Yes.
Teachable is.
Yes.
When we were younger, there was a lot of good movies out, like Robin Williams and The Awakening, and different movies like that. That I saw them before, but I didn't understand them as I do now. So I may say, oh, but I saw that, and marketing knows that they show things over and over 7 times before you even acknowledge it, and until you hear it and see it so many times. But I've been going back to tons of books that I've had for a while and seeing them with a new pair of eyes, or reinforcing what I know and having a new perspective, because everything has a season. And it doesn't mean because you have the book, you don't get something out of it. You get things when you're looking for them, you find them. And I think we, stay away with our eyes closed so much that we don't realize that what you're asking for, you already have and you've received, but you didn't appreciate. So like I was thinking earlier, it's a new recipe, but it's the same ingredients. It's just a matter of measures and whatever to perfect what you want it to be. And you got to unlearn how to unbake or burn. It's trial and error. You can cook the same recipe, same thing, and it comes out all different ways. So life is like a recipe, and so those were just some of the takeaways I took from the joy of being with you guys and knowing that we all have different perspectives and we just come and share. This makes my heart really happy because I learn from you guys every week. So thank you so much. Scott?
Again, Lynn, you're right. Being with you guys every week is a teachable moment. but it's also a moment of friendship and camaraderie, and certainly of like-minded individuals whose goal is to just make it a little better than it was when we got here, make this place a little better. And I really, really like that. And if you want to see what Teachable really is, go on YouTube and Google or look up somebody putting on a pair of glasses for the first time who's been colorblind. They've got these new glasses that make them see color. And I've seen people, have babies react with less enthusiasm because their whole world changed with one moment. And the truth is that if you embrace your moments and embrace your opportunities, that can happen to you on almost a daily basis. You can have one of those moments of, wow, I never saw it this way. I never saw that, or I didn't know that. And I can't wait to see what I'm going to learn tomorrow. So with that, I just want to thank everybody for joining us today, all of our listeners, our commenters, and certainly our panel, Barry, Rex, Sandy, Two Hips, and of course, Lynn, we love you to death. You put it all together for us. So thank you.
Love you guys. Well, until next week, thanks again for being here, you guys. Love you. Bye.
See you.
Keeping me safe and sound.